Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How's everybody? We invite and we engage the audience, inshallah, today on the Seventh Shader program, alhamdulillah. We're here with a group of youth, alhamdulillah, all the way from various, or one institute actually from UCT, alhamdulillah. Today's program, inshallah, we will be speaking on human rights. As again, we remind ourselves a disclaimer that the views expressed in the show is not necessarily that of the MJC, and again, also that the youth with us, they're not necessarily experts. So if we do falter, we understand that this is not experts on the panel, but it's just a means for the youth, inshallah, to express themselves. Now I hand over to my colleague, Walima Khanan.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am Hanan Fernand Adams, and me, along with my co-host, represent the desk of the English Alhamdulillah. So, jumping right into today's topic, today we'll be discussing human rights, inshallah. So, before we discuss the actual topic, we'll just ask our guests to give us a brief description about themselves, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Yasin Tayyib. I'm a UCT student. I'm now in second year, and I'm doing a Bachelor of Social Sciences, and I'm majoring in Politics and Psychology.
Let's start on one side.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Kovat. I am also a UCT student. I'm studying medicine and I'm in my fourth year now.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Momina. I am currently a second year and I'm studying politics and law.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. This is Amna Pita. I'm a fourth year student at UCT, and so I'm also here just to learn about the fourth year. So I'm just more about human rights. So there's more.
So, alhamdulillah, we know that we're in the month of March, and the month of March, the 21st of March, alhamdulillah, is a nice public holiday, but not only a public holiday, it's also Human Rights Day. So, inshallah, in celebrating the Human Rights Day in month, inshallah, we will be having a host of programs on human rights. The first one, which is today's segment, inshallah, we're speaking about human rights in general, specifically to the South African continent. And inshallah, in the upcoming weeks, we'll discuss in other countries, inshallah. So before we, to launch and to start the program, inshallah, we'll ask the question, what is human rights? And anyone can shoot at it, inshallah. What is human rights? You don't need to give the technical definition, but if you wish to, you can say the dictionary terminology, inshallah.
Well, I mean, at least from my point of view, I think the fundamentals of human rights encompasses the ability for people to express and to live their lives in the best way that they see fit, as long as that doesn't encroach on the lives of anyone else. So I think it's very important for us to be able to have that opportunity and for us to be able to have that kind of freedom to live the life that we see fit. For us, especially here in an Islamic way, I think that's very important, and for anyone else, however they see fit. Yeah, as long as that doesn't necessarily encroach on how anyone else is able to live their life.
Anyone else to add on to that?
Just basic needs that each person has to be able to live a good and comfortable life in a society with other people and by themselves.
So this can encompass, from the short definition, what I'm getting from the guy, it can encompass lots of things. For example, freedom of expression, freedom of religion, freedom of that you are rather like to live, education, and so many other things, right? So on that, inshallah, we can choose, like this topic can go anyway. So why don't we start like on one, like freedom of expression, especially like, on social media, like, sometimes you can say anything, but does that, for example, social or freedom of expression, does it allow you to say anything to anyone, or do you think that it is it unlimited, or is it limited to express your views at anyone in any way how you wish to in a South African context? Do you think that is true?
Something that we learned like in junior school was that all rights come with responsibilities. So freedom of expression, although you have a right to express your views, to express your opinions, it does come with the responsibility of respecting other people's rights. So you cannot simply say whatever, especially if what you are saying would encourage others to discriminate or hurt or harm somebody else because they have the right to not be discriminated against.
I understand that, but do you ever like, obviously we all on social media and sometimes, you just find an interesting post and you read the comments and the comments are on 1,000 comments. But even though we know that, it's still there. So is the problem that we don't understand, or is there other problem behind the not expressing, or I'm just saying like, my right, I can say whatever I want to. I mean, I do everything.
So I do think freedom of expression is important just because everyone does, like everyone's life experience is different. We can all learn from each other. What's important is because I know we have a guideline in Islam with Rasul and how we used to interact with people and like the guidelines that we had in speaking to people and respecting them. So I think like you can have your opinion, but like just with following Rasul's example, I think you're able to like at least in that way bring it across in a way that's not gonna hurt anyone or like discriminate against anyone. So I think in that way you can like navigate.
You can
I would just like to say that
Okay, guys, you don't need to put your hand up. Barakallah.
that's something that's very important to keep in mind for us, definitely. But I do think social media can be something that's very toxic.
Yeah, toxic and unrestricted.
Yeah, I know it is. It is one of the main ways in which hate is kind of brought about, and the idea of freedom of expression. We all would like to express ourselves in the way that we best see, but for a lot of people that freedom of expression goes against other people's ideas of what it means to be correct.
Yeah.
And a lot of the views that people espouse on social media do go against a lot of other people's views on what it means to be good
Yes.
and what it means to be good and moral and so on. So I think it's just important for us as individuals to be cognizant of the fact that we can offend,
Yes.
and we do have that ability to offend, because social media is a hub of hate. So we need to keep that in mind when we are on social media, because I don't think that hate can really be stopped.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can
To navigate it and also.
Like
Like what?
necessity also, I think there's no accountability.
Yeah.
And so, absolutely, like if you say something to someone, you face it can lead to whatever it can lead to. But you sitting in your home, this person is far or cross or whatever, there's practically no accountability. You can say, you can hate, you can do whatever, and that is why it's so social media is very.
But also because like social media can span across different times and places, it's very difficult to stop once something has started, because I could reply to something and 3 minutes later reply again,
Yeah.
and it just can go back and forth. Whereas like if we were talking in person, one of us would eventually have to leave the conversation. So
I think it ultimately comes down to like it sounds very, very simplified if I'm saying it now. People just basically need to be nice. Really all that to do. It's like, so everybody has human rights. We all entitled to human rights. And everyone, but like you said, everyone also has responsibilities. So yes, it's like live the way you want to, like make use of the rights that you have, but also respect everybody else's rights. Don't be basic, just be nice.
Yeah.
Don't be.
But yeah,
It's not so hard.
can I understand into that also? So, for example, what if there is like a debatable issue, like, and it could be a big thing. It could be in a family. It could be in a family system, for example. Like this matter, like for example, inheritance. That is a right of family, right? Sometimes and maybe the family never worked it out. Like that expression now, what expressing and saying at that moment, that can lead to, like it can lead obviously to lots of ills, but in that setting, in that situation, like me expressing myself in a nice way, or not in a nice way, but I have to, for example, if you know it's the right man, then you have to express yourself in a certain way. It doesn't mean that I have to be nice all the time. Sometimes right is right, obviously, but it is a manner now. So it's not just for being nice. That's my thing. It's not just being nice all the time.
Because sometimes being nice is a coward. I don't know, sometimes being nice is a coward. Or it can lead to other harms if you do not take a firm stance, for example, and express like, okay, this must be in such a manner. That is
Okay, but maybe not nice thing, but maybe
respectful, yes,
Yeah.
and firm. There has to be a firm stand. I think that's my understanding of not always being nice, but you can be nice most of the time, but sometimes you can't be nice.
Yes, that's what
Yeah.
You must be considerate.
Yeah.
Considerate.
I read a quote that I think ties into it. Where someone was saying that to look at something that's very necessary and it's very important, but without love, it's intolerable. And I think that's just something to think about also.
Yeah. Well, I do like in the modern 21st century, truth to a certain extent can be subjective sometimes.
Yeah.
And it can be difficult to kind of have a civil discussion
Yeah.
a lot of time because I mean, human beings do just like in general, like we always yeah, and we always think that we could in what we're saying, and obviously the other person believes that they're correct in what they're saying. So yeah, it's important to try our best to be civil.
Yeah. And respectful. Yeah. Like what the scholars of the past like taught us, for example, is an important thing, especially in today's times, tolerance. Like yes, you have your rights, but there's also tolerance, which is also ties to but tolerance is how you express and how you accept or listen to others. So it's not just my way is and the highway. It's my way and it's another way as well. And this is also clearly I think clear in the Sunnah of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam amongst the Sahaba that they were big giants, but still they respected and they had tolerance for each other, even though even at times Prophet never said this one is right and this one is wrong. Yeah, so tolerance I think is an important thing.
That's very true.
Notice something you can hear like this is human rights like only came now recently in the 20th century, I think, after the World War, or was Islamic rights always there?
So when I did religious studies last year, one of the sections we covered was Islam and the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the environment that he was born into, and it was talking about how there was so much inequality of the time and how everyone was concerned about money, people didn't trust each other, people used each other to get further in life, and it's with that you can understand why a lot of Islam's beliefs are based on equality and giving everyone as fair of a life and as good of a life as possible, and that's what we strive for.
And I think to add on to that, I think because of the secular world in which we live in,
Yes.
it is it's difficult to propagate those kinds of rights because I mean when we speak about the kind of the secular state, then we're really speaking about man-made rights and kind of man-made models. And when we kind of take a subjective stance on models, then we really just naturally disadvantaging other people while advantaging a lot of other people. And I mean, it seems to be unavoidable in a secular sense, but if we speak about an Islamic sense, Islam is a lot more egalitarian in the way in which it treats people. So I think by at least we can't really change the world, but we can change ourselves in a sense and look at other people from a more empathetic and equal point of view. And I think that's Islamic movement.
Yeah.
That's actually very perfect that you mentioned it because the rights, when it comes to Islam, it's divine rights.
So,
Everything else that comes from there, like you said, is man-made. And when it's man-made, there's obviously the room for error. But once it's divine, there's no room for error. There's no error at all. So, and it would depend also on our understanding of human rights is. So, say for instance, gay, whatever gay marriages. You say it's your right to. I'm just making an example. Sharia is totally against that. But then it would say then you're infringing on my right to practice however I wish to practice on. Whatever. So it would come down to our understanding of what our rights are, but in the end of the day, Sharia and it's divine and there's really no place in Islam that says that it doesn't stand for complete human rights.
But so another, I don't know, is what's the name? Is like state rights, for example, can it be completely bad? Like the rights that are espoused, can it be completely bad? Like if you compare it to Islamic rights, for example.
I don't think they're completely bad. I just think that like if it's a man-made rule, there's lots of room for error and also interpretation and adjustment. So anybody can take it however they want to. They can make changes and they can challenge it however they want to. And if that starts happening, then there's even more problems. Like with gay marriage, for example, if you take the right away, there are so many rights infringed upon, but if you leave it there, there's people that's for it, there's people that's against it, and but if it's a divine rule like in Islam, people often misinterpret Islamic rights as being oppressive or anything like that, but that's because of our interpretation of it.
But then that means also that Islamic rights or Islamic, for example, if you're going to take example like let's example inheritance, right? Then that's really connect that unless some will say some people will maybe interpret in a certain way, then you can say that actually it's not that the divine, yes, the Allah SWT made the laws and the Prophet also made the law because they are the lawgivers, but everyone, there's always going to be someone, a human interpretation of something. So is it not just that the law is divine itself, but when it comes to interpretation by certain people, then that gives a rise to difference.
I think there are a lot of differences in interpretation as well. So some people would interpret Islamic laws and state laws to be similar in some aspects, with the right to life, the right to shelter, food, water, and necessities, the right to equality and free of discrimination and everything. I think state law has taken out a lot of religious beliefs in order to cater to a wide variety of people. And South Africa's constitution, if you read through it, it is quite fair in how it caters to such a variety of people. Perhaps its implementation needs a bit more work. It's still a new constitution.
This is some kind of political science.
So I think like a general rule is respecting everyone, like acknowledging we can't all have the same opinions on things. We all have very different life experiences. So at the same time, we can't say one person is wrong and one person is right, because I have a lot of information in my life and someone else's information can be completely different, but we both are standing with information that has some truth and some falsehoods. So that difference, it creates conflict. But I think at the end of the day, respecting people as long as they're not hurting you, they're not hurting anyone, can also go a really long way.
Can I just say also that I think maybe we also don't hear enough about just the differences that even among the Khalifa that they had among themselves, and even with the differences, they didn't lose respect for each other. And even with the term Sharia, I'm not sure, Mama can maybe correct me or not, but I think even with the definition itself, the meaning of Sharia is it's something that there's room for like how can I say there's room for like your not your interpretation but like to almost like just like one law, like I know like there's almost law, but like according to like your circumstance and your context, there is room for like movement even within Sharia. And I think like we forget that sometimes. Maybe also because we're selfish and we think like the way I live and the way I think things must be that must apply to everyone. And everyone's Islam and the way they look through Islam is not going to be the same just because of your context.
Yes.
Yes, I wouldn't to add on to what both of you said. I think it's very important because I don't think state laws are bad because as I said, it does allow for um, a kind of freedom for basically everyone of a different life, you know, like it allows the people to live the life that they see is best for them, and I don't think I'm in a position to say that um, uh, that the way I think would be better to someone else. I don't think I would be in a position to say that, but yeah, no, I do think we have been we've been given a prayer for religion, and I think we're able to navigate the ways in which we Islamically and from a state point of view how we understand our society. It can be challenging at times, but I do think that a state being secular, I wouldn't say is the worst thing in the world because I do think it definitely allows for more freedom.
Yeah.
Especially like in South Africa, as Muslims, we have rights to do so much than other Islamic.
Yeah.
So we have then the two, we can have duality of alhamdulillah, meaning duality of our Islamic rights as well as civil rights to the state. So alhamdulillah for that we are very appreciative, obviously. Speak up to the NCA for that.
No, it's like especially with that, like if you look at South Africa's population of Muslims, it's less than 10%, I think.
Yes, 3%.
Yeah, less than it's about 3%. So when you look at how the human rights and the constitution has been set up, perhaps a secular state law would be better for the country because we cannot enforce a Christian law, we cannot enforce an Islamic law because our country is extremely diverse, especially with its history that has brought about like a big group of people full of different people with different opinions. So
that's true. Like Islam is kind of about trying to give people as equal rights as we can give to other people.
Yes.
And if we're gonna force what we believe, you know, onto other people, then it's going to disadvantage those other people in this in the human sense.
Yes.
So I think the secular constitution gives us the ability to express our beliefs in a free way, and I think that's fantastic. But I don't think we are in a position to take advantage of that and force that onto other people.
I think it will be easier if we lived in this is not very very location. If we lived in a society where everybody was very similar, say for example, they all followed the same religion, all were of the same. So given everyone would have similar human rights almost, not that human rights are different according to who you are, but according to our context, human rights like things can be interpreted differently for different people. For example, the right to like security for people living in a dangerous area, they don't really get that, whereas people living in a more secure area, they get that. So would it be easier for us all to be on a similar, living in a area or country where we all have a similar like standpoint? Would it be easier in terms of human rights?
I think like one of the problems with that is if we had like a culture and a society where everyone was like as close to similar as possible, there is, because we're all completely different people, there will be a minority no matter how you group society. And when you have a society where most of the people are really similar, but then there's a minority of people that have like a small difference about them, that minority will be oppressed and ostracized. So perhaps maybe having a bigger group of diverse people with a lot of where they can slot into different groups depending on the context of their life and their experience. So I can be in South Africa, like I can be a colored person, but I can also be a woman, or I can be a Muslim. And then it's just I fit into a whole lot of different identities at one time. But if I were to be in a group of just colored women, there's still that factor that I'm also a Muslim woman, and not all colored women are Muslim women. So yeah, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing to think about. Like if we were all the same, then would it make it easier? And I don't know. Like I feel like it would make it easier in a sense, but it would make life a little more boring. I think it would allow for a kind of
Like I'm just thinking what the verse of the Quran that also says, Ya ayyuhalladhina, ya ayyuhan nasu, ya ayyuhan nasu, inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha wa ja'alnakum shu'uban wa qaba'ila ta'arafu. So Allah said that in the Quran He made us different tribes, and why? Ta'arafu, so that we can mutually know each other. Then but then after that verse Allah says, Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. The most honorable of you is also the most taqwa. So subhanAllah, we different, but none. And you hear from the said that no one is better than other. Only in taqwa, so you can be black, woman, or Muslim. But if you have taqwa, you can be better than a white male Muslim or single or anything. But it's the underlying factor of greatness is taqwa, subhanAllah. So Allah never gave preference to any one race, any one tribe, nothing.
in modern day society, we always speak about equality and trying to make people as equal as possible. But the fact of the matter is that there's always going to be people that are more equal than others, in a sense, because you can chalk this up to whatever historical oppression and so on, and so on and so forth. But there's always going to be people in the lower echelons of society. And we're lucky, in a sense, to be able to sit here and speak about these things, because we live a very privileged life compared to a lot of the other people in South Africa. And I would say we have more human rights than a lot of other people. And so yeah, it's difficult speaking about human rights in the sense because we do understand that not everyone possesses those human rights, and that's a problem. And I don't know how we can fix that problem. It's going to take centuries, I'd say, but
Must get some kind of necessity.
So I think that as long as there are discussions like this, and as long as people are aware that there are differences in society and that not everyone's human rights are being seen, then we're always working towards change and towards an equal society one day, inshallah.
If I can come in here, inshallah. So in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there was something called Hilful Fudul. Hilful Fudul was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam looked at the society that he was living in, right? And he realized that there are so many shortfalls within that society. There are so many injustices that are happening. You have female infanticide, daughters being buried alive. You have the oppressor oppressing those who are beneath him, quote unquote. And then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gathers a group of people, and at the time he was not the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah was prophethood had not yet come, and he then devises this movement within Makkah al-Mukarramah to mobilize people, and the aim of this was to see to the injustices being seen to make sure that these injustices no longer happen. So the widow who had lost her husband and she's sitting with so many children, who's fending for her? Who's seeing to her needs? Who's making sure that that family has food? Or the orphan that has no mother or father? Who sees to that child? So these were the dynamics, and these were the challenges that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam realized exists in his community, and then he went ahead in remedying those shortfalls. But the question that I have for the panel is, I hear equality, and there are various definitions that we can place down to equality. But does Islam stand for human equality with regards to its rights, or human equity with regards to its rights? Because equality would mean, and I'll use the example that Mullah Yusuf mentioned earlier, inheritance. Equality would mean that the boy and the girl gets exactly the same inheritance. Equity would mean that the boy gets double the share of the girl. Why is this? Is this an injustice? Is this wrong? Is someone's right not being fulfilled? Or is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his infinite wisdom realizes that, so you're the son, your dad dies. It's your responsibility to look after your sisters. So technically, she can do with her inheritance whatever she wants, while he needs to make sure that he uses his inheritance to look after you. Is that an injustice?
Okay.
So my question would be equity versus equality in the context of human rights.
Yes.
I think Kauthar was first.
Oh.
Yes, Kauthar.
I'll make it quick. We were always sure, because I guess we then like to bring mathematically, but unfortunately, they try and teach us about, obviously because you'll be working with people a lot, they try to teach us about equity versus equality. And the right answer is always equity, because they showed us this picture like in first year, I think, and they showed every year after that. So there are three people of different heights. There's a wall in front of them. Equality would be you give each of them one box to stand on to see over that wall. The tallest person is going to be able to see over it, but the shortest person still won't be able to. But so that's equality. Giving everyone the same thing, but it doesn't benefit them all the same way. But equity would be giving the shortest person more because they need more to be able to see over the wall, and giving the taller person less because even without the box, you can see over the wall. So equity would be better because it goes according to the person's circumstances and it makes sense.
Yeah. But also to add on to that, equity is a very much a now solution. So trying to make sure everyone has access to being able to look over the wall, being able to access certain rights, but at the same time, there are a lot of cases where we can completely remove the wall, so there is no barrier oppressing or stopping the short person from seeing what's on the other side. So there's short-term solutions and there is long-term solutions to people's access to different things.
So like just thinking of equity, I don't know if this is the answer, but it just reminded me of.
Well, there is no right. I just asked the question.
It just reminded me of just balance, man, and looking at the person's life, and like just understanding that like it's always the middle road that you would take. That idea of balance. I'm just thinking of the definition that I heard of it. When I was at the NSA conference, and when I was like, yeah, he was saying that balance isn't what we think it is. Isn't that idea of like off and off? It's like it doesn't look the way we see, like it must be like exactly this amount we win it and this amount we win and that's equal and that's balanced. Balance looks different in everyone's life, in every individual's life. And I think that was just profound for me because I didn't think of that like that before.
Yeah, and something that comes to mind, and I'll end on this for myself. I hear what Mina is saying about the equality and equity and no war. Let's consider what happened in places such as Australia and the the US and other places. When COVID just started, everyone was running and buying bulk toilet paper, and no one really cared about anyone else. So you'd find fights happening within these Walmart stores and whatever, because I have means, I have money, I can bulk up on a whole lot of, stock up on a whole lot of toilet paper. But then there's a guy that might not be able to because he doesn't have the money. So instead of removing a wall, he's now sitting with no toilet paper. So he's sitting with a bit of a problem. So yeah, in my estimation, it would come down to the human factor. Humans play a huge role in dictating how human rights are fulfilled. For example, I could become upset about the taxi cutting me off. Or I could just think he needs to earn his money to pay his boss. And then it would solve my problem, not necessarily his problem. His problem is tomorrow, the next guy is also going to cut off. But how I approach my human conduct in relation to his action. Because my human rights was violated. He cut me off and he could have caused the accident or whatever else. But it's just a matter of the human factor that needs to, in my estimation, just needs to be readjusted. The niceness that Kavita spoke about. But with that human factor, the divinity of Allah still maintains the parameters wherein we can act. Yasin, you wanted to go.
I think equality is, I wouldn't say it's naive, but I would say that there's going to be a constant struggle to become equal, and that struggle is never going to end. It's like when we speak about, practice makes perfect. You're never going to get to perfection, but we always have to strive for perfection. We always have to strive for equality, but to get to a point in which we can say, okay, we can get to a point in which there can be more equality. There does have to be equity. Like when you speak about something such as BEE, if there was going to be equality in everything, then the state, then the social hierarchy in South Africa is going to stay the same for the rest of time. There's always going to be the same people on top, the same people in the middle, and the same people at the bottom. And the people at the bottom is always going to be the black people. If we're going to say that equality is the only way forward, because we have to go with equity. We have to say that we have to advantage people who were previously disadvantaged in order to get to more equal society. So,
but what about the best man for the job? Let's consider Siya Kolisi.
Yeah.
A lot of people thought Siya Kolisi was not the best man to be the captain of the Springboks. But look what he did.
Yeah.
I think
No,
another thing we need to acknowledge is that the people who BE doesn't necessarily advantage the man least suited for the job. It could actually help you to get the best man for the job. Because if we think about how companies are being led at the moment, majority of the South African companies, the wealthier ones, are led by wealthy white people. They are the elites of our country. And South Africa's democracy is very new. Social change is still very new here, which means that they might have racial preferences for workers. So they might not give black people or any person of color the opportunity because in their mind, the white person is the best man for the job because, like attracts like. But also another thing, if we went to different schools and maybe my school was more privileged, hers wasn't, just as an example, I might have been achieving 80s in my school, she might have been achieving 60s, but if she had the exact same opportunity as me, she would have also been achieving 80s. It's just that she didn't have access to proper internet, like laptops, computers, teachers who were
Resources.
there until 4 o'clock in the afternoon willing to tutor and everything. So it's not the fact that someone isn't suited for the job just because they're not producing the same results. It's that, look here, black people, colored people, Asian, Indian people, they have been given significantly less resources. B is just something to help them access opportunities that wouldn't have been accessible to them. That's equity. If they had to say, look, everyone, the free market is just every man for himself, like if you get in, you get in. White people are already at an advantage, giving them the exact same resources and opportunity. won't be equality, it will be inequality. Because then you're not breaking down systems, you're just reinforcing it by allowing it to happen.
But on that, like on the PE, for example, when does that PE stop? How do we know in society that, okay, this is enough now, everyone has now equal opportunity? Or does this go on until eternity? That's going to be like a reverse.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, PE has been going on for less than 50 years. If you look at slavery and apartheid, that's over 200 years combined. And that 200 years, they've put in specific laws, they put in property ownership, they put their justice society, they segregated land and areas. Those things can't be broken down in 30 years of democracy, 300 years of oppression. 30 years of democracy and a new government won't just tear that down and give us the equality we want. And that's why it's like people think like, you always hear people say, oh, it's been 25 years, it's been 20 years since apartheid ended and we're still in the same spot. But we're in the same spot because this spot has been a system built before any of us were alive.
I could argue that though. I would say that we can blame government corruption for it at the same time.
Yeah, because remember,
that was being usurped, for example, that alone is putting the country in a spiral downwards and the economy is ready to blow up because of COVID or so and all of this. So we can't necessarily say that it's color, that it's corruption. And corruption knows no color.
No, that's good. There's always going to be a problem with any proposed solution, I would say.
Yes.
And yeah, it is a very good question. We don't know how long should this carry on. We don't have an answer. I think we don't have an answer. And but it's just that if we're going to remove that, I think it's going to cause more than good. So it is a difficult situation, and there's not really a correct answer.
Yes.
But
basically.
yeah.
Like,
Basically.
another example would be NSFAS. Like a lot of people would say it's unfair that some kids are getting into university for free and everything like the university isn't being paid. Meanwhile, those kids, and let's acknowledge it, it's going to be mostly Black students and people and students of color that are on NSFAS. So now it's saying like, okay, it's not fair that they get free education, but now when you look at NSFAS not being able, having budget cuts and not being able to take on students this year, all of those kids who also had ambitions and goals and dreams, who also worked hard in matric, they can't access those things. That equality of everyone has to pay for the university has led to inequality on their terms. So.
Yeah, no. I think the sad reality is that we are going to have to implement unequal solutions to combat the inequality, and that is the problem. That's well, I wouldn't call it a problem really, because it seems to be the only solution at the moment. I'm not a politician, so I wouldn't necessarily.
Please don't become a politician.
I don't have enough knowledge to speak about all of the implications of it and any other kinds of solutions. I'm not going to pretend to know that, but yeah, I think it's just one of the stepping stones creating a more society that caters to more people.
Yes.
It might not fix the future. It's not a long-term plan, but at the moment it will.
It's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, it's going to fix a lot of people's lives in the present. So at least they're not suffering as badly.
Question to the panel. Do you think South Africa is still the rainbow nation?
Was it?
Or is the colors fading? What do you guys think?
The thing is, it's all very idealistic. Not that all the problems. We are. We are living.
We biryani.
Yeah.
And everyone likes it. And don't forget the sister, guys. Don't forget the sister. Let's go.
Like really break barriers down, but there is a stepping that I
Because it's very difficult to live in a country with so many different types of people, with more than 13 official languages, more than 11. But like, it's extremely difficult. Like all the first world countries are very homogenous. They're the same. That's why they do so well. We are doing well for the position that we're in. So I think that we can call ourselves that. Even if the kind of is married, the rainbow is big.
You're just looking with a pot of gold. Oh no, wait. It's just ANC to get. Okay.
we have to
Yeah, let's just hear from the other panelists. Mina, do you think the Rainbow Nation? Are we still that Rainbow Nation? Are we still that country that the world looks to?
I feel like the Rainbow Nation, that term has been used to sort of just, it's like a forgive and forget term. Like it doesn't do what people think it does. Like it's only brought up when, for example, if like at school or something, someone would say like, oh, I'm facing this racial discrimination, and someone would say, oh no, but we're a Rainbow Nation now, this can't happen and everything.
It's a get out of jail free card.
Yeah, it's become South Africa's get out of jail free card, where they say because racism is illegal now, it's gone forever. Meanwhile, racism, it adapts. It's like apartheid laws and everything. Apartheid is over, but its effects have adapted to the society that we're in, like with land separations and everything and how the land was distributed. Apartheid is over, but communities are still racially organized and communities have different types of resources depending on the majority race there and how the community has been built up. That does affect everything. So when we say Rainbow Nation, I think a lot of people forget the amount of work that must still be put in, because the Rainbow Nation was the end goal and people are calling the end goal before we've reached there.
Amina?
I think I don't know, if you look on like TV, like pictures of university show when they advertise themselves, then you see diversity, you see people of different colors. You can call that a Rainbow Nation, but it doesn't really look like that on the inside. I think the very fact is that there's not a black person on this panel even, or even a white person that's a Muslim on this panel, that already shows, man, that like, where's the rainbow?
Can I just add to that? Why we never got that is because the UCT guys do not volunteer.
So that's UCT's fault. But a very good point, Amina. Very good point. MashaAllah. Yasin, the Rainbow Nation? Do you still believe in the dream of South Africa being that Rainbow Nation?
I'm very pessimistic about the idea because
Politics makes me pessimistic.
because I think, as Mina said, it is kind of it's a term just used for
Feel good.
yeah, basically feel good, yeah. Because well, we are still very tribal. I think the idea of a Rainbow Nation would be everyone being inclusive in everything, and I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, but blue and red can never be the same.
Yeah, no, that's true. But I think blue and red can coexist.
And be green?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
The current colors of the MJC?
But I don't think we've got to that point. And I think, I think we have a long way to get there. I think it was used as a lovely utopian idea of what South Africa can be, but the world is not utopian, and we need to realize that because, yeah, we're still very divided as a nation, and I don't think, like, especially in the short term, there's a way to combat that theory. So it's definitely something we can work towards, and I would love to work towards that. But yeah, I think we're doing our part here.
Definitely.
Definitely. But
must work
It's
on that.
difficult. Yeah.
Work on it, inshallah.
Yeah, but it's something we can get to. Hopefully, I don't think in my lifetime or any of our lifetime, but I think one day I think we'll be able to get there.
Inshallah.
Hopefully.
So inshallah we will first shukr to the panelists. Before we go, we just like to ask everyone like panelists just give a word of advice like what you feel that you'd like to give youth out there, you know, human rights, anything small, one word, powerful advice to the youth on human rights, inshallah. Anyone volunteers?
Be nice.
Be nice.
No, that's not the word. I'll stop using it. But
No, a lot of people are not being nice. So it is a good word, actually.
but you know, just be respectful. Try and be more tolerant of people around you. I think it can go a very long way. Even for small things. Your sibling doesn't want to give you or feed chips. I don't know. People can know. Respect the human lives. Yeah, it's the small things that will make a big difference.
I think something nice to constantly think about is that there's no absolute truth right now in our world. We're all very human with, as I said earlier, different information. So I think trying to have more open conversations will really help you to grow as a person and to learn more about yourself and learn more about other people. So just keeping silent on things. You need to have open conversations, respectful open conversations with people, and just strive to be the best version of yourself.
Also, tied into what saying, just like go out and like into spaces that you don't usually like sit with people that we don't usually talk to. Here, this side of the story also we too much in our own space and it makes our world really small and we forget that there's like a world bigger than us. And then it makes us complacent with where we are also. So I think just go out and learn.
There was this 5th century Chinese philosopher named Confucius, and some of his disciples one of these days asked him, "What's one word that you can give us that we can incorporate into our daily lives to help us live a better life?" And he said that word is empathy. He said, "What you would not like to be done to yourself, do not do to others." And I think that for me is the height of human rights and the best way in which we can live our life in relation to other people.
Jazakumullah, our panelists. Alhamdulillah, as I say every week, I thoroughly enjoy our discussions. But I don't just enjoy it, I deeply learn a lot. So I say shukran to you for coming out and joining our discussion today. And we say shukran to the viewers for tuning in every week. And we will see you again next week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.